What's up, cool people? I'm Matt Conroy. Welcome back to our Bible study. Alright, so now we got Numbers chapter 2 for our Bible study. And last chapter there was a bit more wandering around the wilderness, but the Israelites also kind of took over some land. They fought against two particular kings, King Sihon and King Og, and wound up, basically, because of defeating those kings, wound up taking over the land that those kings had ruled over. That's, I guess, a little bit of context for this chapter and what might be relevant to it. So anyway, let's dive right in here. Numbers chapter 22. Then the people of Israel traveled to the plains of Moab and camped east of the Jordan River, across from Jericho. Balak, son of Zippor, the Moabite king, had seen everything the Israelites did to the Amorites. And when the people of Moab saw how many Israelites there were, they were terrified. The king of Moab said to the elders of Midian, "This mob will devour everything in sight, like an ox devours grass in the field." Okay, I know it's technically a little bit more of the verse to go there, but wanted to pause and say the Amorites, those were the people that were previously ruled by King Sihon up until he decided to pick a fight against the Israelites. So, yeah, when it says Balak had seen everything the Israelites did to the Amorites, it was that, like, just total defeat of Sihon's army and then taking over the land that he used to rule. So, yeah, understandably at least a little worried. Then we continue on with the very end of verse 4 and a little bit more. So Balak, king of Moab, sent messengers to call Balaam, son of Beor, who was living in his native land of Pethor, near the Euphrates River. His message said, "Look, a vast horde of people has arrived from Egypt. They cover the face of the earth and are threatening me. Please come and curse these people for me, because they are too powerful for me. Then perhaps I will be able to conquer them and drive them from the land. I know that blessings fall on any people you bless, and curses fall on people you curse." So, I guess Balaam was supposed to be some sort of, I don't know if prophet's quite the right word, but, you know, somebody who pulled some weight. And, of course, Balak was not only scared because of what the Israelites had done to the Amorites, but also because of the number of them. Thus saying things like, they covered the face of the earth. Basically meaning there's a lot of them. Footnotes. Pethor, or who was at Pethor in the land of the Amovites, rather than saying who was living in his native land of Pethor, I guess. Referring to Balaam, I assume. Footnote at the Euphrates River. Hebrew just says the river. But I think in that area, the Euphrates is one of the larger rivers, if not the largest. My geography is not the best, but it's one of the larger rivers in the area. And so there are a lot of times when the Bible will just talk about, especially Old Testament, it will just talk about the river. It's kind of assumed they're talking about the biggest one around there, which was likely the Euphrates. So Balak wants Balaam to curse the Israelites, hoping to, gain some sort of advantage and possibly then defeat the Israelites and drive them out. Because otherwise he's worried they'll come and take over and just, quote, devour everything in sight. So, then we get to verse 7. Balak's messengers, who were elders of Moab and Midian, set out with money to pay Balaam to place a curse upon Israel. They went to Balaam and delivered Balak's message to him. "Stay here overnight," Balaam said. "In the morning I will tell you whatever the Lord directs me to say." So the officials from Moab stayed there with Balaam. So, notice it mentions the Lord, like all capitals, same Lord as the Israelites follow and believe in. So, despite being in a different area, I mean, it was still possible for people to hear about, the workings and deeds, miracles, whatever you want to call them, of the Lord. And, just because he has a particular group of people that are claimed as his people, that doesn't mean there are not also other people who have faith/belief in that same God. And I guess at this point you could sort of consider Balaam to be a prophet of the Lord, because he, basically says whatever the Lord tells him to. Footnote there. Hebrews says, set out with the money of divination in their hand. So, rather than it sounding like a bribe necessarily to, entice Balaam to place a curse upon the Israelites, it could have been just sort of an understood fee, like you would pay a modern day, fortune teller or something to that effect. That's just the first comparison that came to my head. So it could have just been sort of an understood fee that, all right, we need, sort of a future prophetic telling from you. Here's the price. Anyway. Then we get to verse 9. That night, God came to Balaam and asked him, "Who are these men visiting you?" Balaam said to God, "Balak, son of Zippor, king of Moab, has sent me this message. Look, a vast horde of people has arrived from Egypt, and they cover the face of the earth. Come and curse these people for me. Then perhaps I will be able to stand up to them and drive them from the land." But God told Balaam, "Do not go with them. You are not to curse these people, for they have been blessed." So, God, unsurprisingly, is like, no, I'm not gonna tell you to go curse these people because they're my people. I have blessed them. In all likelihood, if Balaam tried to curse the Israelites, he himself would have gotten cursed instead, or something to that effect. Because, yeah, they're God's chosen people. Let's see here. Then verse 13. The next morning, Balaam got up and told Balak's officials, "Go on home. The Lord will not let me go with you." So the Moabite officials returned to King Balak and reported, "Balaam refused to come with us." Then Balak tried again. This time he sent a larger number of even more distinguished officials than those he had sent the first time. They went to Balaam and delivered this message to him. This is what Balak, son of Zippor, says. Please don't let anything stop you from coming to help me. I will pay you very well and do whatever you tell me. Just come and curse these people for me. So, Balak's not giving up on this idea just yet. And trying to... I mean, now it really sounds more like, some sort of coercion, enticement, almost bribery, rather than just a friendly, all right, we're seeking your word, here's a price to pay for it. No, this is a full-on, just come and do this thing. Here's extra money, here's even more distinguished people who will, treat you well and sing your praises if need be. I'll do whatever you want. Just come and do the thing. And then verse 18. But Balaam responded to Balak's messengers. Even if Balak were to give me his palace filled with silver and gold, I would be powerless to do anything against the will of the Lord my God. But stay here one more night, and I will see if the Lord has anything else to say to me. That night God came to Balaam and told him, Since these men have come for you, get up and go with them, but do only what I tell you to do. So God has at least relented enough to say Balaam can go with them. Still hasn't said he can curse the Israelites, but yeah. Maybe there's something a little more that God has in store here for that situation. But I like Balaam's integrity and moral standing here. He's like, look, you could give me everything, the entire kingdom and all of its wealth. I can't do anything that God doesn't tell me to do. This is the Lord my God, all-powerful creator of the world. I speak what he says to speak. And I can't work against him. He is too powerful for me to deny. Anyway, and now we're going to get into one of my favorite little obscure parts of the Bible. So, verse 21. So the next morning, Balaam got up, saddled his donkey, and started off with the Moabite officials. But God was angry that Balaam was going, so he sent the angel of the Lord to stand in the road to block his way. As Balaam and 2 servants were riding along, Balaam's donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with a drawn sword in his hand. The donkey bolted off the road into a field, but Balaam beat it and turned it back onto the road. Then the angel of the Lord stood at a place where the road narrowed between 2 vineyard walls. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, it tried to squeeze by and crushed Balaam's foot against the wall. So Balaam beat the donkey again. Then the angel of the Lord moved farther down the road and stood in a place too narrow for the donkey to get by at all. This time, when the donkey saw the angel, it lay down under Balaam. In a fit of rage, Balaam beat the animal again with his staff. Okay, pause there real quick. So, God was angry that Balaam was going. I mean, so that might seem a little bit odd given the previous couple of verses where God's saying, okay, you can go. But, it was almost more of a unhappy, relenting kind of okay, fine. So these people will leave you alone. You can go. I'm not happy about it, but you can go. So, yeah. God still didn't exactly like the idea, therefore, angel was sent to block the way. Doesn't necessarily say to kill Balaam or anything like that. It does say there's a sword drawn, but it just says the angel was there to block his way. So, yeah. Maybe not outright kill, but stop from going was the idea. The donkey saw the angel, but Balaam did not. Thus Balaam's frustrations against the donkey. So, anyway, then we get to what's really my favorite part. Verse 28. Then the Lord gave the donkey the ability to speak. Talking donkey? Anyway. What have I done to you that deserves your beating me 3 times? It asked Balaam. You have made me look like a fool, Balaam shouted. If I had a sword with me, I would kill you. But I am the same donkey you have ridden all your life, the donkey answered. Have I ever done anything like this before? No, Balaam admitted. Then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the roadway with a drawn sword in his hand. Balaam bowed his head and fell face down on the ground before him. So, yeah. God decides to let the donkey be able to speak. And, basically it's established that I'm your trusted donkey that you've ridden your whole life. Why do you think I would suddenly, for no good reason, do things that you don't like? And then Balaam starts to relent on that, and God then decides to show Balaam why the donkey was doing all those things. So, then we get to verse 32. Why did you beat your donkey those 3 times? The angel of the Lord demanded. Look, I have come to block your way because you are stubbornly resisting me. 3 times the donkey saw me and shied away. Otherwise, I would certainly have killed you by now and spared the donkey. Then Balaam confessed to the angel of the Lord, I have sinned. I didn't realize you were standing in the road to block my way. I will return home if you are against my going. Again, because the reason God did that was because he wasn't really happy about the idea of Balaam going. Just making sure I remember the words here correctly that the angel said. At first it said, it came to block the way. So, again, stubbornly resisting, I guess that's just because, Balaam kind of sought God's words again, even though he already knew that God didn't want him to go. But because Balak's officials came back again, Balaam thought he would seek God another time, but he should have kind of already known. Now the angel does admit that, it would have killed Balaam, if it weren't for the donkey. So, good boy donkey. Anyway, okay, then we get to verse 35, and I'll probably just read through to the end here. But the angel of the Lord said to Balaam, Go with these men, but say only what I tell you to say. So Balaam went on with Balak's officials. When King Balak heard that Balaam was on the way, he went out to meet him at a Moabite town on the Arnon River at the farthest border of his land. Didn't I send you an urgent invitation? Why didn't you come right away? Balak asked Balaam. Didn't you believe me when I said I would reward you richly? Balaam replied, Look, now I have come, but I have no power to say whatever I want. I will speak only the message that God puts in my mouth. Then Balaam accompanied Balak to Kiriath Huzoth, where the king sacrificed cattle and sheep. He sent portions of the meat to Balaam and the officials who were with him. The next morning, Balak took Balaam up to Bemoth Baal. From there, he could see some of the people of Israel spread out below him. And I guess the next chapter will kind of continue with what's going on there. But, so, Balaam, whether it was because he wanted the money or because he was tired of being bothered by Balak's officials or whatever, sought God a second time. God was like, fine, go. But he still wasn't happy about it. So sent the angel to try and stop the thing that he didn't like. But then the donkey who saw the angel, kept veering off or doing whatever necessary to stay away from the angel so that Balaam wouldn't die. But, Balaam got upset with it. Then, after a conversation, a literal conversation with the donkey, and, Balaam realizing maybe he should have trusted the donkey a bit more, he sees how he was wrong. But then, after he sees the angel trying to stop him from going, Balaam kind of says one more time, okay, if you really don't want me to go, I'll go back home. That I'm that set on, following whatever the Lord wants me to do, not just, going one way or the other for my own motivations. But then I think probably because it was made clear what Balaam's intentions were and that he wanted to just follow the Lord's will, then the angel says, no, you can go. But you still have to say what the Lord says. And, God also has kind of a habit of, further solidifying certain events, certain intentions within people, or other things like that. There's, there was the initial thing after the second night where God says in like a dream or vision or whatever, you can go, but do only what I tell you to. But he's kind of making absolutely sure that it's clear by sending the angel, who then says you can go, but only say what I tell you to say. Then Balak's upset because it took so long, but Balaam is making it clear that he's not just going to give in to King Balak's demands. He's going to say what God tells him to say. So anyway, that wraps up for Numbers chapter 22. All right, raise your hand if you knew that the Bible had a talking donkey in it. Yeah, not exactly something most people look into, but that was the next part of the story related to the Israelites. I assume we're going to get a continuation of this whole situation with Balaam in the next chapter, or at least in some sort of chapter coming up soon. But, yeah. The Bible's got some weird stuff in it if you really, look into it enough. But anyway, as always, like and share if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell to get updates when I post new videos. Look down in the description to get info on other social media pages and all that good stuff. And leave comments below there with any thoughts you have. So that's it for now. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I'll see you for the next video. But until then, stay cool, people.